Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, you're all muted, but it's nice to be able to see all of your faces for once and not just have my face on the screen, which is very nice. A few more people wanting to join. We might get started. Penny, if you're ready to go.
Sure am.
Cool. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this important webinar. We are recording the session, so if you do need to skip out or anything like that, you will get a copy of this following the webinar. My name is Summer. I'm one of the Member Services and Communications Coordinators for MPAQ, and today I'll just be helping moderate the session. During today's session, we are joined by a very special guest, the Honourable Shannon Fentiman. Shannon is Queensland's Minister for Employment, Small Business and Minister for Training and Skills Development. Minister,
Hi.
thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
We're also joined by Penny Corner, the MPAQ Executive Director. Thank you, Penny, for joining us as well.
Thanks, Summer. So firstly, I'd just like to say thank you to the Minister for making the time to be here with us today. We appreciate how busy you and your team are at the moment. I was very fortunate to be on another Zoom meeting yesterday with Minister Fentiman, as her team hosted a small business industry roundtable, which MPAQ is part of. The Small Business Industry Roundtable is really keen to get our feedback from our members around what members need in the short, medium and long-term phases to support the recovery for small businesses here in Queensland. The three areas that they're focused on is obviously the economic and regional impacts, the current and future economic opportunities, and the strategies and responses required to support the sector recover and obviously thrive. So we'll be preparing a response, and if you have any ideas or suggestions, please provide feedback to us so that we can include that. We have already received some feedback from members, so thank you to those members that have provided. We've also worked with Minister Fentiman previously in regards to our college at Beenleigh, so thank you, Minister, for your support with that. Minister, it's obviously Small Business Month, and obviously due to COVID-19, things are a little bit different at the moment, as most members are small to medium-sized businesses and a large majority are family businesses as well. Can you provide an update on how the department is promoting Small Business Month?
Yeah, I can. Thanks very much, Penny, and lovely to see you all, and a big thanks to Master Plumbers for the opportunity to chat to all of you. It's a very small business month this year. All of the wonderful events that were being planned, we're now shifting to July, but we are sort of making this month a month for people to support small. So we're ramping up our campaign for people to support their local small businesses, their local tradies, their local plumbers. So we are doing some work across different industries and working with CCIQ on a massive support small campaign. So we'd love to work with you on how we could promote some of your members and encouraging people to support their local neighbourhood small businesses.
Excellent. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Penny, as well. I also just wanted to acknowledge, obviously, all the members joining us today, but specifically the MPAQ President, Kent Vickers, who's online with us. We are going to do things a little bit differently today to how we would normally run a webinar. And obviously, you might have noticed we're in a different program to what we would normally use. So you do have the option in Zoom to have your video, which I can see quite a few of you do have on. I can see some of your faces, which is nice. You can turn that off down the bottom if you want to. You can also submit some questions in the chat. We are leaving everybody's microphones off just so we cut out any background noise, anything like that. But if you do want to ask your question at the end, obviously I'm happy to unmute some people. And yeah, so we will take those all at the end, and you can just pop those in the chat. If you can't see the chat, just hover over your screen, and down the bottom you should have an icon that says chat, and that should pop up for you. But we might get into the questions. Penny, did you want to start us off?
Sorry about that. I have to wait for the host to unmute me. Thanks, Summer. Thanks, Minister. So we're just going to ask you a few questions now, and then, as Summer mentioned, members feel free to ask some questions as well. So in recent weeks, we have heard from many businesses concerned they will be hit with a higher payroll tax bill due to accessing the vital JobKeeper payments. I know there has been some information circulated about this recently, but could you please advise what the outcome is on this particular matter?
Yeah, wow, it's great news. So great question, Penny. We made an announcement late last week that we would not be charging payroll tax on JobKeeper. So a big thank you again to Master Plumbers and a lot of the peak bodies for advocating very strongly on behalf of members that we shouldn't be charging payroll tax on this. So it was a really great outcome. I was really pleased to see that we made that very sensible decision, I think.
Yeah, agreed, definitely. One of the questions that I got from one of our members today, who unfortunately was unable to participate, he asked, due to the increased material costs over the next 6 to 12 months, have you considered removing payroll tax for a period of time? He asked me to raise that question today with you.
Yeah, look, it's another really great question. I have to say, as the Small Business Minister, payroll tax is the number one issue that gets raised with me, even before COVID-19. So
I can imagine.
So obviously, last year we had a massive payroll tax initiative in the budget to lift the threshold from 1.1 to 1.3 and provide a regional discount. Yes. Obviously, very early on in this pandemic, we announced a payroll tax deferral of 6 months. We then also introduced a payroll tax refund. So it's a 2-month refund of payroll tax, all businesses. So the average that a business will get is about $9,000. There's a 3-month payroll tax holiday for SMEs, and then there's a 6-month deferral for all businesses. So really, the answer is, at the end of the day, most businesses will not be paying payroll tax this year through a holiday, a refund, and a deferral, which I think is great news for our small businesses that are doing it tough.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
And I might jump in with a question. So obviously it's coming into the colder months. I think some people are already feeling it. I know I am. Is there any support for consumers who need to purchase essential services that our members offer, like hot water systems, if they're currently not employed and they need that assistance?
Yeah, another really good question. So, I know that this is a huge need, particularly for some vulnerable people in our communities. We provided a electricity rebate for small businesses and for consumers. So that will come on the next electricity bill, which will be a big help to them in purchasing some of these essential services. And the federal government has also increased the job seeker payment. So of course, as you know, anyone that's accessing Centrelink now is obviously getting an increased payment, which will help a lot of people. And there's 2 additional stimulus payments from the federal government as well, of $750, one in April and one in July. So it's a good opportunity, I think, for you and your members to sort of promote the fact that you provide those services, particularly when those 2 stimulus payments are made.
Yeah, that's good. All right, I might ask another question now. We've had quite a few members take advantage of the apprentice wage subsidy, which was released by the federal government, but we've also had a lot of members that employ more than 21 employees. And obviously that makes them ineligible for the funding. Is the state government looking to implement anything for those businesses who were not able to access the JobKeeper payments and therefore also not able to access the apprentice subsidy funding?
Yeah, it's. I have raised this directly with Minister Cash on a number of occasions, and I know the Premier has also raised it at National Cabinet. There's a lot of businesses that don't fit the JobKeeper requirements of a 30% revenue reduction, but they may have taken a significant 20% hit, and they're also over the threshold for the wage subsidy. So there is a gap, and in Queensland we are seeing a number of apprentices being stood down more than this time last year. which is a concern. So we are doing some work at a state level to look at what we can do to encourage businesses to continue to support their apprentices and trainees, but also looking to the recovery. How do we actually encourage business at a time when things are tough to take on apprentices and trainees so that we don't have a skills shortage in years to come? So we are doing a piece of work around incentives or subsidies, particularly in those first 2 years when you have a lower skilled apprentice that, you know, I think the third and fourth year, this is what a lot of small businesses tell me, are much easier because you have a more highly skilled, more productive worker. But the first 2 years are the hardest, really at a small business trying to manage an apprentice. So that's what we're looking at, and we'll keep working with master plumbers and other organisations to make sure we get that policy right.
Yeah, that'd be great, because we do know a lot of members, especially in the regions as well, where they might have, 6 apprentices and they've got, 30 to 40 staff, and they would really like some sort of assistance, I suppose, to keep them on because they don't want to lose them as part of that. So that's great to hear.
And the other, and the other program that's really quite good at supporting apprentices, and we're looking at how we continue this or do more with it, is Back to Work. So particularly in regional Queensland, there are incentive payments for putting on apprentices, which do make it easier. So I'll make sure you get some information about that as well.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. Following on from my previous question, some of our members don't draw a wage as they are set up as a partnership. So they're not entitled to the federal government's JobKeeper scheme. It would be great to find out what types of financial support there is for these businesses that don't have employees and they're set up sort of as a partnership or a family trust. So it might be a husband and wife working in the business.
Yeah. So I think the first port of call is obviously, because so many trusts are set up in different ways, getting onto your accountant to talk to the ATO about, whether or not JobKeeper is applicable in your particular circumstance is the first thing I would do. There's also, of course, our no interest loans for small businesses. So we've doubled the amount of money available for small businesses now to get a loan. So it was $500 million. It's now $1 billion, that fund. So that's another option. And of course, all of our small businesses get that electricity rebate and all of that. So there is some support available. The other thing I would recommend is to call our small business hotline. So the hotline has dedicated business mentors that we can link you to help talk through what supports are available. So that's 1-800-654-687, and it's really worth giving them a call and signing up for a free mentoring session.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
And so just following on from Penny just mentioned then the members that we've got in those rural or remote areas that have all the apprentices. So one thing with them is obviously they haven't been able to complete their block training through TAFE or through other training organisations. And now that means that the apprentices may be away from the workplace for longer periods than what they were expecting them to be, to catch up or complete their necessary training. Do you know if there is any stimulus for those kinds of situations, I suppose?
Yeah, look, I've been talking to the CEO of TAFE and John Tucker from Skills Tech, so Mary Campbell and John Tucker. They are trying to be incredibly flexible to meet the needs of businesses right now in terms of getting apprentices their training. They are doing what they can online. So if there is one of your members that really does need some flexibility, I'd highly recommend they get in touch with TAFE or their training provider to try and do what they can online. TAFE also, in some circumstances, can send trainers to the worksite to help. And I know my department's also being very proactive, particularly for those apprentices that may only be months away from completing, to see what we can do to just help speed it up and get them completed and get them into the workforce. So there is a few things happening. And if any of your members have any specific issues, very happy for them, through Master Plumbers to contact my office, and we can see the best way to help them and provide that flexibility. And
obviously now with restrictions starting to ease, a lot of people, well, most of our members have said they are still at work, but a lot of other small businesses are starting to return to work. Is there anything that the Queensland Government's putting in place to offer to these small businesses that are now starting to ramp back up again following COVID-19?
Yeah, look, we're working on that at the moment. I'm putting together a bit of a small business package with my department. So we're just obviously working with the new Treasurer and the economic recovery team that's been put in place to make sure it's a coordinated package. But I do know that there will be a need to support small businesses to adapt and, you know, as they emerge from hibernation, to get reopened. And that might be around training for staff. It might be about, you know, making sure that they've got, you know, the digital technology they need to open right now. So there's a whole range of things that small businesses need to get back up and running. And I want to make sure we've got a program to assist them with that. So I'm hoping there's some good news to come on that very shortly.
Oh, sounds good.
The other thing I would just say is we have our Jobs Finder portal that we launched, which links people looking for work with recruitment companies. And through that portal, there is lots of wonderful free training. So for those of you out there that feel like a bit of upskilling and reskilling in your lounge room right now, there's some really good courses available through TAFE, micro-credentials, which are around digital capability, data security, all of those things that businesses really need, you know, upskilling in, and it's free. So I'd highly recommend through the Jobs Finder portal, you have a look at the free training. I think it'll be really great for a lot of small businesses to enhance their digital skills. You know, if a lot of your members are like my dad, who was a carpenter that couldn't even get the text messages working, some digital training is probably much needed.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And we're happy to send out the link for that following the webinar as well. So members can jump on and either upskill themselves or provide that to their employees as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So we have had one or two questions come in. I just wanted to see if there was one specifically from John, and I wanted to see if he would be willing to say it out loud. He hasn't responded to me, but
if you unmute him,
yeah,
put him on the spot.
John, are you there?
Yeah, that's fine.
Did you want to ask your question?
Yes, Minister. I see that the $500 million low interest loan scheme's been doubled to $1 billion. Do we have to reapply, or will our original application be reassessed?
No, your application will be reassessed, so no need to reapply.
Can I have some idea of what the level of, I suppose, applications was? So, you know, if we've already applied, does that mean we're guaranteed, or will there still be excess of $1 billion applied for under the scheme?
My understanding is they're going through the applications right now. If you have applied and you meet the requirements, you should get the loan. So they are processing them as quickly as possible through QWriter. And my understanding is because they were so oversubscribed, they've now put the money in to make sure that they can approve the applications that had come in.
Can I ask a question to you directly?
Yeah.
With the upskilling, I think is a fantastic idea. Is that going to be extended to non-TAFE institutions at any time? Because there are some fantastic courses in by other providers. Not just master plumbers. I'm not angling at that, Penny, so settle down.
No, we are working on that as well. So when I talked about putting together a comprehensive small business package, I am wanting to make sure that private providers can come and, you know, pitch their ideas for great training for small businesses. So, you know, I'm working on a package that does involve that, but it's really just going through the processes now internally in government to get all of that ticked off.
Thank you very much. Some of you better mute me before I ask another question.
Thanks, John. All right, and I think we might just see if Kent is there. Kent, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yep.
Awesome. I think you had a question. Did you want to?
Yeah, I did. First of all, thanks, Minister, for your time today. It's great to see that we've got an open door with the Queensland Government. It's something we've not had in the past, and it's nice to have a group of ministers that we can speak to any time about anything. But my question today is, you talked earlier about Small Business Month, and will the Queensland Government be undertaking any sort of campaign to promote the recovery after this is all over?
Yeah, absolutely. So, at the moment, we're sort of focusing on our hashtag support small campaign, but we are looking at a broader campaign that's funded, calling on consumers to make sure they're supporting local small businesses. And then, as I said, in July, we'll probably have like a small business month again, where we actually hold those events and seminars and mentoring and all of, the wonderful ideas that, because we had a grant program available for people to hold events in Small Business Month, but we've obviously just postponed all of that. So yes, there will be a campaign, and we're also looking at campaigns to make sure we're letting people know about our, free training and upskilling and reskilling. So there'll be a few campaigns, and I know centrally, Minister Cameron Dick is actually pulling together the economic recovery package, and there'll obviously be a whole lot of campaigns built into the broader economic recovery strategy.
Good, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Kent. You didn't have any other questions? All good. So we did have one other one that was submitted prior to today as well from a member. I think she might actually be on today, but I'll read it out. She was asking about incentives for hiring new apprentices.
Yeah, so when I talked about looking at some subsidies for apprentices and trainees, and particularly apprentices in the first couple of years as part of our workers assistance package, I am thinking about in the recovery about people putting on new apprentices and trainees. So obviously when things are tough, the tendency is businesses tend to obviously not put on apprentices because they're not sure about the certainty of having that work for them, and that is a big risk. So anything we can do to sort of, help with wages in those first 2 years, I think will be a really great incentive for businesses to keep training, because we're going to need apprentices and trainees and skilled workers in the recovery. So we are looking at an incentive program for new positions.
Excellent. All right. Penny, did you have any other questions? I can't see any others that have come in on the chat, but if you have
There's a question from Donna on the chat there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. It's more just a statement. Donna, if I unmute you, are you happy to speak? Are you there, Donna?
Oh, she said she's got no mic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it was more just a comment that she made. She said that small business, they don't want to go into more debt that still needs to be paid back. The JobKeeper, at least for partnerships, would be better than nothing.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think the low interest loan is a good option for some businesses that just need the cash flow and are confident that they'll be able to pay that back, over a longer period of time. But that's why we're working on that small business package that will include grants, much smaller amounts than the loans, but it will give hopefully small businesses some immediate cash flow to help them adapt and reopen, and upskill.
Excellent. All right. Yeah, we might just see if any other questions come in. So yeah, just pop those in the chat if you do have them. Kent's got another question. Let me just unmute him again. Kent, you there?
Yeah, the first obvious question is, what did you unmute John? But anyway, we'll go past that.
Penny
and now he's looking for the unmute. Keep it serious because we've got the minister with us. I've got a few builder mates of mine that are travelling absolutely fine at the moment, but they're all saying in 6 weeks' time we're not signing any new contracts for new housing.
Yeah,
they're all domestic builders. They're worried that in 6 weeks' time they're going to fall flat, and I understand that it's not really the government's responsibility. But is there anything that you guys can do as an incentive for new home buyers to get out and start signing those contracts? I mean, it doesn't affect me personally, but in the position I'm in, I have to represent everyone. And that's certainly something that's going to affect our plumbers down the track. If they're not building houses, they're not doing plumbing. So that's one of the things that's been flagged with me when I'm out walking at night.
Yeah, and this is the feedback I've also had from Construction Skills Queensland about projections, but also property. I was on a phone hookup, another Zoom phone hookup like we're all doing. I was on another one of these yesterday, and the Property Council gave me the same feedback. So, and that was with the Treasurer. So, you know, we do understand that new build, like the things that have gone on hold is no one's building a new home, and also renovations are slowing down very quickly. So we're very well aware of that and looking at how we can continue to support the construction industry. And Minister Dick did very clearly say yesterday on that hookup that, you know, infrastructure will be huge in the recovery, and government is looking at that very, you know, closely in our recovery plan to make sure that there is that pipeline of work.
Yeah, that's right. I think I heard last week on that one. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I heard last week on the radio that the government's looking at massive infrastructure spending on roads and infrastructure up north. So, I mean, that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely a good thing. It doesn't specifically impact a lot of our members in terms of the roads infrastructure.
Sorry, I'm just getting a 1 William Street fire warden announcement.
Wow.
Try and
There we go.
Yeah, I understand, Pen. I understand that infrastructure is probably not prime to our industry, but if people have got money to spend, they'll start doing the building of the houses and
certainly will. That's what we will have a flow-on effect. Yeah,
definitely.
Agreed. So everybody's been quiet on there. Is anybody going to ask a question, or you want someone to unmute you? Put your hand up so we can see you, or type in there.
We did have one come in from Tiffany, and I'm sure she'd be willing to be unmuted. So Tiff, are you there?
You make it sound like I love the sound of my own voice. I've just got a question in regards to the loans that are available for small businesses at the moment. I haven't been able to read anywhere, and I'm sorry if it is publicly announced, but in the event the loan is paid back earlier, is there an early payout fee?
No.
Okay.
It works the same way it works for farmers. So Q-Rider are the ones that operate all of the rural farm loans, and it's incredibly flexible too. Like you can keep getting extensions, and it's, you know, it's very much designed to support the business make it through.
Yeah, because I can see a lot of benefit in getting the loan just to have cash in the bank, particularly while there is a no interest period. But if it was there for just that reason and it wasn't then used, it could easily be paid back. So I was just curious as to how that would impact the payout. Great, thank you.
And we did have one come in. I think it's Peter from Harvey Bay Plumbing. It might be more of a question for the Premier possibly, but we might just see if he's there. He did arrive late, so we missed the start.
I am here, but I don't have video, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Did you want to read out your question?
Yeah, so I live in Harvey Bay. Looking at the Queensland Health website this morning, there are 2 cases in Cairns and Metro North, and I'm not sure where Metro North, and that's a health region, is the furthermost north one. So there's a large section of Queensland that hasn't got a case. My understanding is west of Oakey, there has never been a case. Is it possible to open up the regions faster than the southeast? And I do realise that it's pretty difficult to police the boundaries, but the incentive and the returns for doing that would be strong.
Yes, the Chief Health Officer, Jeanette Young, was asked this very question, I think late last week, when we talked about reopening. So it's a really good question. They're going to keep reviewing that. The Premier certainly, I think, has said she's interested in allowing people to move further distances within their region in regional Queensland. So as you can see with the roadmap for reopening that we sent out, there are different stages, and I know they are looking at whether or not they can be more generous in regional Queensland, you know, where there has been such a limited amount of cases. So the Chief Health Officer is reviewing that. But even here in the southeast, we have such low case numbers. I mean, you know, each time it's reviewed, there may actually be further relaxations in place right across the board. So they are aware of the need to, you know, have a regional approach in a state as big as Queensland, and they're continuing to monitor that daily.
Thank you.
And I just thought there was just another comment from Donna who asked or had the comment earlier, and she just said that she would not want your job. She's really looking forward to the new incentives for apprentices moving forward.
Thanks, Donna. Some days are better than others, but it's a nice day, and it's been lovely to see all your faces and chat to you about how we can help.
So it looks like all the questions we've got in, but Penny, did you want to give your, I suppose, final thoughts or anything like that before we do wrap up?
Yeah, does anybody have any last minute questions? I know they haven't typed them into the chat, but anybody that's got video, did they want to ask anything? I know John's always eager to ask questions. No.
John's had his too.
No. Sonia, did you have anything, or Mandy? No. Okay, that's fine. All right. Wonderful. Yeah, well, thank you so much, Minister, for your time today. We really appreciate you making the effort to join us and providing some of those responses to the questions. Yeah, did you have any last minute words or comments that you'd like to share?
No, just thank you so much for the feedback. And I'm really happy to do this again in a few weeks once a few restrictions have changed. And if everyone doesn't mind, I'm just going to take a little photo of you all.
Oh, where's John now?
He's got his hat on, doesn't he?
Yeah. But honestly, and again, if you think of anything we could be doing to support your members in the meantime, just, Penny has my office contact details, and I'm really happy to have your feedback. I think the recovery is going to be long and hard, and we want to make sure we're supporting you as best we can.
Before we wrap up, sorry, there was Peter who asked the question earlier, did say he had one more. We might just unmute him again for one more. Peter, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. This is not actually a COVID question, and it was addressed by the QBCC the other day at a divisional meeting. But it's currently illegal for apprentices to work unsupervised. It's quite unwieldy once they hit third and fourth year when they get a bit expensive. Is the government looking to change that rule so they can do some jobs unsupervised?
Oh, look, happy to look at that. And if, if any of the other members have some views on that, really happy to look at that. I think in third and fourth year, there probably are some things they could manage, but I wouldn't have the content knowledge, but I'd be happy to take that feedback from master plumbers and the members.
Yeah, that is something that has been raised, that we've spoken with Minister De Brenny on. Yep. And I understand that his department is reviewing the apprentice supervision guidelines as we speak.
All right. Well, I'll talk to Mick and make sure that my department's involved in those discussions as well.
Great. Yeah, thank you. We're connecting with Mick and obviously with Minister De Brenny, obviously just around the recovery phase. You talked before around infrastructure projects, but we're also looking from a building and construction perspective as well, and how we can get the recovery and the stimulus moving as quickly as possible. As Kent mentioned, there is concerns around the unknown, and those members that sort of sit in that area around what's the upcoming pipeline of work and what does that look like. And with people putting things on hold, it is a worry that jobs might have been pushed back to July or September. So, yeah.
You think you'll delay the election?
No.
No? Bring it on?
Well, one, I think we can't. There's some sort of constitutional problem with doing
that. That's right.
But I think it will be a mixture of like longer times for voting, so extending out pre-poll, making postal voting more accessible, promoting telephone voting for vulnerable people with underlying health conditions. So I think it will just be a little bit of a different kind of election. You might all get away with not having people shoving how to vote cards in your face.
We could zoom in.
Zoom in.
That was actually very nice at the local elections to not have all the paper to then recycle.
It was very nice as someone who normally has to stand there and shove the paper in your face.
Oh dear.
And we might just go to one more. Anne did start to type a question, but she only half wrote it, so I'm not sure what happened there. Anne, do you have your audio? Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, all right, yeah. what it is, if you're a business-based operation and you've tendered for something sort of in regional Queensland, central Queensland, and you've won that tender, are there restrictions now on whether you can actually travel out there to fulfil that tender? Do you need to get permits or authorities for your staff to go out?
I don't think so, because work is deemed as essential travel. But if you wanted to feed that through, I'd be happy to get that clarified and ticked off with the chief health officer's office.
Okay, so do you want me to type that in here or just send it through Penny? Or
send it through to Penny, and we'll at least then give you an email from the Health Minister's office that says this is fine. Just so
okay, thank you.
Work at the moment is deemed to be essential, basically.
Excellent. All right.
I've got to actually head off to. I'm doing a Q&A on Facebook with Minister Grace next, so I'll have to wrap it up there. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Thank you for your time, and if anyone's interested in watching that, obviously hop over to Facebook. Thank you for providing.
School kids, you might want to.
Thank you for coming on, and thank you for providing some of these responses to these questions we've been getting from our members. Thank you to Penny as well for joining us, and for inviting the Minister to join us here today. Obviously we wouldn't have been able to get this insight without your hard work as well. And thank you to everyone that's joined us today for the Q&A, and stay safe and have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Minister. Thanks, Summer. Thanks, everybody.